Good evening, everybody. I've just been given the sign from Charter Communications to start. It's a couple of minutes early, but we'll go ahead and get started. This is the League of Women Voters forum, candidate forums for the primary election 2016. And the Cheyenne League decided to really do the forums for city offices, the nonpartisan offices this election season. So tonight we're starting the 3 nights of forums with the mayoral candidates. Tomorrow we will be doing the candidates for Ward 1 and on Thursday for City Council wards 2 and 3. We're doing it in flights, 2 flights for the mayoral and Ward 1, simply because there were a number of candidates, and we thought that it would work better to have fewer up on the dais. We thank the city government for letting us use their city council chambers. We thank Charter Communications. They are recording all the forums for us, and they are rebroadcasting it on their cable channel 192, and they will also post it online, and we will have information about that, a link to that YouTube video when it comes out. Meanwhile, just to let you know, the rebroadcast dates from Charter is going to be the mayoral forums will be rebroadcast at 6 p.m. on July 19th, July 26th, August 2nd, and August 9th. So that's basically every Tuesday until Election Day, which is August 16th. Tomorrow, Council Ward 1 will be rebroadcast at 6 p.m. on July 21st, 28th, August 4th, and August 11th, every Thursday until Election Day. And then Council Wards 2 and 3 will be rebroadcast at 11 a.m. on Sundays, July 24th, July 31st, August 7th, and August 14th until Election Day. League of Women Voters, which is a political but nonpartisan organization, we urge people to be informed and vote. So in addition to these forums, we have a voter guide that is online. You can follow the directions to the Cheyenne page of Wyoming, lwv.org. All these candidates, in addition to the candidates for the legislature and county commission, have filled out those, our voter guides. You can find more there. And I will say, and also we're lucky to have in the audience our county clerk, Deborah Lee, and her website for the county clerk's office has a lot of information on how to register to vote, where to vote, how to vote, qualifications. It's a very rich site, so any questions you have, you can call her office or go to the website. A lot of information there. And so I guess we'll go ahead and get started here. We have 8 candidates participating tonight's forums. They were selected at random to be in the 2 groups. Tonight we had a previous group. This is group number 2. Rick Coppinger, Amy Serdam, Pete Illaway, and Marion Orr. They are all candidates for mayor, which is a nonpartisan office. 2 of the people running for the mayor will proceed to the general election. So you'll have 10 people. You have 11 people on your ballot for the primary, if you live in the city limits. And then you will have 2, will make it through to the general election. You'll have 2 people to vote for at that time. And
Marguerite, excuse me, it's 10 on the ballot because you have a write-in.
I'm sorry. I thank you for the correction. One of the candidates tonight is a write-in candidate, Richard Johnson, so you will not find his name on the ballot. Thank you very much. I knew the math wasn't adding up for me right there. So just to let you know, tonight's format is going to be a minute and a half to open. We'll have a series of questions the league has written, minute and a half to answer those. We'll give everybody a brief chance, 15 seconds or so, to comment or amplify on their own position. And then at the end of the evening, they'll have a minute and a half to sum up. And then at the very end of the evening, any candidates who are around, we'll invite them back up to the dais, any of the 8. And if they want to, they can comment further on their own group, on the other group's answers. It's going to be kind of an open mic situation there. Before I start, and a little different order from last time, I will just say that, just to let you know, Cheyenne, a little bit about the mayor's office. Cheyenne is a strong mayor form of government, governing departments that include public safety, personnel and administration, parks and recreation, street and traffic, and public utilities. The mayor also is the 10th member of the governing body. There are 9 persons on the city council. The mayor is the 10th and runs the meetings with the gavel. The mayor appoints or makes recommends appointments to the head of all the departments, including the police chief. The city council has to ratify those choices. The job pays $95,000 a year. Whether it's full-time or not, we'll talk about that a little bit tonight. The current mayor, Rick Kaysen, I asked him how much he spends a week on this job, and he said 80 to 90 hours a week, and that includes all the meetings and then all the other attendant activities associated with the mayor's office. So we'll talk about that a little bit too. But let's go ahead and start the evening with opening statements. Mr. Coppinger, why don't you go ahead and start? Thank you.
Good evening. It's really nice to sit with such a group of people. Oh my gosh. My name is Rick Coppinger. I decided to run for mayor because I figured people of Cheyenne needed a choice. There are 10 of us, 1 write-in makes 11. That provides you a pretty incredible choice of people to be able to pick the person that you're going to think will do the job for you. What you see up front is a facade for all of us. We'll tell you what we think we need to do to be able to help you win the city the way you want it to be. Very distinguished group of people, very intelligent people, and all of them very capable of doing the job they say they can do. My background is teamwork. My military background, teamwork, running men across an aircraft carrier with aircraft, running constantly. Working in the oil field, working with men on derricks in positions that were extremely hazardous to their health, never having an injury because of teamwork. Running the airline, being a manager for Great Lakes Airlines along with Richard Johnson, never having an injury. Being able to supply customers with the things that they needed at the time that they needed and means of transportation. Coming up with ideas that would get that job accomplished. My name is Rick Coppinger. I look forward to having your vote, please.
Thank you very much. Ms. Serdam?
My name is Amy Serdam, and I'm running for mayor because I love Cheyenne. I want this community to be as great as you, the people who live here. About 3 years ago, I was in Cabo, Mexico, and I had done some rock climbing, and I came over some rocks, and I could either run in front of rocks or I could climb them again. So I thought, I'm a runner. I'm going to run in front of some rocks. So I ran in front of the rocks, and the waves knocked me down. I tried to stand up, and the waves knocked me down again. I tried to stand up again. The waves knocked me down again. And I got sucked away in an undertow, and I was in a washing machine for a good 5 to 10 minutes. And in those moments, I really didn't know if I would make it out alive, and I ended up having to be rescued. It was that day in my life that I clearly remember thinking about what was I giving back to my community and what was my footprint and how was I making a difference in this world. I decided then that I was going to live a life of purpose and meaning and giving back. I started the Children's Museum. I then moved on to the DDA, and I want to continue serving my community as the mayor of Cheyenne. I think I would be an excellent mayor for you. My whole purpose is to make this community as great as you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Illaway?
Thank you, Marguerite, and thank you to the League of Women Voters. I'm Pete Illaway. Good evening, and I've been a resident of Cheyenne since graduating from college. I've worked in both the public and private sectors. I also enjoyed working for Cheyenne Leads as a vice president, where I worked with Randy Bruns when we purchased the North Range Business Park and were able to site the Walmart Distribution Center. I've served 14 years in the Wyoming House of Representatives, where I served as chairman of one of the 10 standing committees, the Corporations, Elections, and Political Subdivisions Committee. While in the legislature, of course, there were lean and prosperous times. And I'm presently a consultant in business and public affairs, and I'm also serving my second term on the Wyoming Business Council as Secretary-Treasurer. And I'm currently president of the Cheyenne Regional Airport Board and serve on other boards. All my past experiences have developed the skills that a mayor should have. I've lived in Cheyenne and Laramie County since 1963 and am passionate about the city. It was once known as the Magic City on the Plains, and it can be again. I'm concerned with the direction the city is moving. I want to see it move forward, and this can be done by a mayor and a city council and department heads working together. As a consensus builder, I have the experience in bringing groups to agreement. The name Cheyenne has a certain mystique, and it has great attributes, including museums and a historic downtown that should be capitalized on. As your mayor, I want to see the city to be more citizen and business friendly.
Thank you. Ms. Orr?
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Marian Orr. Thank you, Marguerite, and the League of Women Voters. I have been a resident of Cheyenne for about 23 years. I grew up in Casper, went to the University of Wyoming, and then moved to Cheyenne and started a very successful lobbying and government relations firm. And over those 20 years, I've learned the art of bringing people together, sometimes over adverse situations with differing opinions, to come together and solve problems. And when I took a look at this position, I thought, you know, I'm in a time in my life where I can take that experience and move Cheyenne forward. Personally, I love Cheyenne, but I'm dissatisfied with it. I believe that we're really at a tipping point where we can move things forward. And in taking a look at things, I started off the campaign actually really reaching out. I decided that rather than trying to put my opinions and form my opinions on people, I wanted to hear from everybody else. And so I've spent countless hours, countless mornings meeting hundreds of people using social media to find out what's important to people. And I'm hearing time and time again, everybody really believes that the proper role of government is public health, public safety, and our infrastructure. I've heard about potholes every day since starting the campaign, but really, if elected mayor, I believe that the proper form of government is putting our needs before our wants and being a good steward to taxpayer dollars. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll go ahead and start the questions now again. A minute and a half to answer, and then when everyone's done, you'll have a brief opportunity to either add to your own response or comment on what someone else has said. So we'll start with Mr. Dam right now. The City of Cheyenne is a complex organization that operates in a complex environment. In some cities, the mayor may be a figurehead, but not Cheyenne. Using a range from 0 to 100%, indicate how much you think you need to learn to be an effective mayor. So it's kind of a how much you come in with and how much more do you think you need to go but become an effective mayor.
I would probably say I'm about halfway there. I feel like I have a lot of experience to draw on. I have a lot of leadership training from being in the military. I'm currently in the Wyoming Army National Guard. I've been serving for 14 years. I'm a lieutenant colonel. I've also owned more than 6 small businesses. We currently, my husband and I, still own 2. I know what it's like to manage large groups of people. We employ 50 people, and I've managed more than hundreds of people all at the same time through volunteer efforts. I also currently manage 5 multi-million-dollar budgets, so I'm used to juggling that as well. And I am the director of the Downtown Development Authority, and so I think I have a good understanding of some municipality interactions and especially what needs to happen to revitalize our downtown. I say 50% because I think there's a lot of things that are going on inside City Hall that I would need to definitely research further. I've been meeting with directors. I've been talking to city employees and staff and trying to get an insight of what's going on. But I know that, you know, we're going to have to scrub processes. We're going to have to scrub budget. We're going to have to look at the inefficiencies, identify them because they're there, and figure out how to cut the budget next year and reallocate funds in prioritized areas as we move into the future with a vision and a strategic plan.
Thank you. Mr. Illoway, do you need the question repeated?
Please.
Okay. The City of Cheyenne is a complex organization that operates in a complex environment. In some cities, the mayor may be a figurehead, but not Cheyenne. Using a range from 0 to 100%, indicate how much you think you need to learn to be an effective mayor.
Thank you, Marguerite. 100% of the time. 100% of the time to do the proper job. But let me go back just for a few minutes. The previous mayor Mayor Spiker, gave Mr. Kaysen 2 months' office. After he was elected in November, he got an office for 2 months, and I think that probably should, if that can continue, then you at least have a great leg up, because at least you have 2 months starting. You get to talk to the present mayor, probably get to talk to some of those department heads and find out really what's going on. As far as the present mayor spending 80 to 90 hours a week, I think that sounds a little excessive for anybody. And you're going to spend 100% of the time in your office or outside talking to people. But yes, I'm going to work full time, but on the other hand, probably not double time.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Orr, do you want the question repeated again? I mean, or?
No, thank you.
Okay, all right.
So from 0 to 100%, I would put myself at a really solid B, an 85%. For years, I've worked with other mayors, I've worked with county commissioners, I've worked with the state legislature. I believe we've got a really good handle as far as what makes our communities work, how our cities are funded, the day-to-day operations. I've been very involved actually for years with that. And along with that, you know, I would take the job and I would work to bring change to the paradigm. You know what, and the role of the mayor, and so you know, walking in, you know, with a B, I don't think that any one of you would probably want somebody to sit here and say, I can walk in day one 100% and know the job, because you're going to get more of the same. And so I believe that coming in with a B, there's room for growth. There's room to listen and ask really good questions, and then question the answers. And so if elected and on day one, I think I'd be off to a good start. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Coppinger, do you want the question repeated?
No, I think I've got a
Okay.
pretty good handle on that. I thought about the question, and I had to break it down because there's so many different aspects of being a mayor. Leadership, 100%. I've led men in positions that nobody would want to be in. I've worked men 112 hours a week, and every one of them went home to their wife and children safely. We did it wisely. So leadership, I've definitely got. Teamwork, 100%. Because I've taught those men how to work as a team, how to think together, and how to work together, and how to work off of each other to come up with an end result that is plausible for everybody. For the budget, 85%. And I say that because you have to go through and look at everything. You're going in with a blank slate. You can see part of the budget online, but you don't really get a chance to break down what each person is thinking and what their thought is behind their head. So again, the teamwork comes into play, sitting down with each department, each division, and coming up with what plan works. Again, we're going to have to run skinny for a while. The budget in the state says so. We don't have a choice. So I would say probably 80% in that area. As far as people are concerned, 100%. Hours, I've worked 112 hours a week, not a problem. But being a mayor is more than just sitting in the office. It's being outside talking to the people. So it's a 112-hour week.
All right. Thank you very much. I will move on to the next question. Thinking back to the city administrator election from last fall, we heard complaints that about the power of the mayor's office affecting the council's access to information and decision-making. And as we all know, the mayor, there's a lot of room for personal style, what kind of style he or she might bring to the office. What is the proper balance of power? What is the proper, what do you consider the proper relationship with the city council? And so I will start with Mr. Illaway.
Thank you. The proper balance should be where the mayor and the city council are working together along with the department heads. I would take time to have meetings with each ward city council people. In other words, one week you might have lunch with Ward 1 and the next one Ward 2, and then you'd want to have some time with the council president. This present mayor holds many things close to the vest. He's not talking to the city council, and I think you really need to find out what each councilman really thinks and what's going on in the wards. And you can't do that by only meeting on Tuesday nights and listening a little bit to what they do in committee meetings. So I think meeting with the wards, meeting with the president of the council, you find out what's going on, and you ought to do this on a monthly basis. In other words, you're going to have lunch or whatever with those people throughout the month. So you can do that, and that's not an open meeting. So it's important to go ahead and talk to them. Don't hold everything so close that nothing gets done, and that's what's happened.
Thank you. Ms. Orr.
In my opinion, the best role of city government, the way Cheyenne is structured, I see it as a three-legged stool, where you have the mayor, the city council, and the staff. And in order for that stool not to be wobbly, you really have to disseminate the information, the communication, and the everyday activities very evenly. And from what I've heard, that really probably hasn't occurred as well and as often as it could. And so if elected, I would definitely make sure that relationship between the city council, the mayor, and the staff is strong. And how's that done? The role of the mayor, full-time, plus time, obviously, if you talk to Mr. Kaysen. We have a part-time city council. So in all fairness to them, they need as much information as possible from the mayor and from the city administration. Really easy way to do that is to hold, prior to city council meeting, basically pick a department each month and let that department focus and highlight what their priorities, their goals are for the city council. Again, it's part-time. I would question how many of our city council members really know what the priorities are within each individual agency. So I really see it as, it is a strong mayor, but it has to be a very balanced relationship. Again, and it's a relationship where there's no such thing as too much information, too much communication, and I would really make it a priority to establish a good rapport with the council.
Thank you. Mr. Coppinger.
Communication. I think we've all said the same thing. It's communication. If you're not talking to the city council, how will they know what they're doing? How will you know what you're doing? If you're not communicating to each other, how will you know how well you're doing? If you're not talking to the public, the people you're serving, how are you going to know what they're thinking? You need to be an open book. In politics, they use the word transparency like we use the word love for ice cream. And it's wrong, because transparency requires so much more. You have to be a person of the people. You have to talk on a regular basis to your city council. You have to talk to the people that elected you. They hired you. Election is nothing more than a word for an interview. That's what I'm doing now. I'm interviewing in front of the people that I wish to serve. As a leader, you have to be able to form a team. And as having a team, that means you have to spend time together. Every job I've ever worked at, I'm a firm believer in meals together. I have forced my guys to sit down and go to dinner with me. When they're done, they're very happy they've done so because, one, they got a free meal. But secondly, we had a chance to sit down and talk about our discussions and our differences and come up with a plan. But it was an open communication. It was comfortable. It was unevasive. Communication is the key. It's what makes things work.
Thank you. Ms. Serdam.
So one of my favorite lines of the Soldier's Creed is, I am a warrior and I am a member of a team. And in the military, we focus on the mission and the vision, and then we focus on how to be a team to accomplish that mission and vision. And I think that the role of the mayor is to be that liaison from the public. The mayor is here for you. They work for you. And how can they communicate your thoughts and needs to the council, to the city staff, and then interrelated that amongst everyone in there. And so, there's lots of things you can do, and I totally agree with Rick. You cannot communicate enough. And so first, you need to have a weekly communication that goes out to department and the team of the city staff and the council. Second, you need to engage each ward member. I do think, yes, they're part-time, but they want to be engaged. They want to represent their ward. They're the one who knows what's going on in that ward. And so they're going to be the ones who know how to advance their ward for their ward visions the most. And so how can they be engaged more? And then let them be a leader in their ward. The people elected them to represent them, and they're part of the city. And then I believe in open meetings. I think all meetings probably should be open. I think you want to ensure everyone is part of that team. Everyone needs to feel valued. Everyone needs to feel like they're a member of a team. Thank you.
Thank you. And one thing, I'm sorry I failed to do the last time, just to give you the opportunity to respond. You have 15 seconds to either add to your own response or comment on another response. Does anyone want to take that opportunity? No? No takers? Okay. Thank you.
Going forward.
What's that?
Maybe going forward.
Maybe
Thank
going
you.
forward. All right. Well, I'll try to remember to keep offering as we go. If not, remind me, please. What changes, if any, should be made to regulations, codes, fees? Are they too restrictive? Are they not restrictive enough? Should there be any changes that you can perceive right now? And we'll start with Ms. Orr with a minute and a half.
Thank you. So since day one with this campaign, I've been listening to people, and time again, they've talked about how difficult it is to do business in Cheyenne. I met with a gentleman at the Diamond Horseshoe Cafe, and he was really interested in purchasing a piece of property downtown, brick building. What he needed for his business to make it work was to make some adjustments, and he was basically told that essentially he'd have to have the brick building moved because of the easement situation with the sidewalk, and so he walked away from the purchase. That's not right. And so our UDC codes are important. They're important for public safety, absolutely, but they've become too restrictive. When we start trying to, perfect example, fourplexes, putting in, sprinkling fourplexes when actually there's a firewall with utilizing modern building technologies that ensures the safety that's the same as a twin home. The costs involved with sprinkling that fourplex would have increased that purchase for a new homeowner significantly. And we wonder why homes are so expensive in Cheyenne. We wonder why so many of our military are having to live out of state. Our building codes are really suppressing economic development in this community, and we really have to do something about it. As far as other codes and regulations, I don't believe we're being tough enough on those owners of abandoned and vacant buildings. We need to get tough. We need to send them notices and take care of it.
Okay, thank you. And you can use the 15 seconds after if you want to expand a little bit further on that. Thank you. And Mr. Coppinger, do you want me to repeat the question, or do you have it there?
No, I think it's yes to all of above.
Okay.
Are we restrictive? In a lot of areas, yes, we are. Are we not restrictive enough? In a lot of areas, yes, we are. I have to agree with Ms. Orr. We have slumlords by the ton. There's no excuse for it. If you're going to rent to somebody, they should rent someplace that is safe for human habitation. If you have buildings downtown, you should be obligated to keep those buildings in safe upkeep so that when I go downtown, I see nice properties. Not to say you need to spend millions of dollars to keep them up, but you should keep them at least safe and secure. The UDC code, I can honestly say I'm not that versed in it, but we do need to create stronger codes. The fire codes, as Rich was talking about earlier. But yeah, all of the above. We just have to research what codes are in there. Rich has done a great job of cleaning out a lot of them. I'd like to continue doing so.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Dam?
So I think there's multiple things that we could be doing better. So we definitely could be enforcing current ordinances better. We only have one enforcement officer, and it's really difficult for him to have his eyes on everything in the community. So making him aware of what's being violated so that he can enforce that better is a good opportunity. As far as the abandoned buildings, I'm actively working with several people in City Hall and in the community on an abandoned building coalition right now, and we're looking at the current minimum maintenance standards, and do we need to increase those? You know, we have a delicate balance in Wyoming of private property ownership rights versus what's good for the public. And there's a balance there, and we need to identify what that balance is, and then we need to enforce that. We need to come up with a program that we're all going to buy into and we're all going to believe in and enforce. And so that's actively being worked on right now. As far as the UDC and the development office, there's a lot of opportunity there. I think as a developer, you know, I've encountered just miscommunication about what's required and what's recommended. And so that needs to be more consistent. Inspections need to be more consistent. We need to educate the staff and give them better training so that they know why things are the way that they are. And then, you know, create advisory groups and have a one-stop shop to make that office more flexible.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Illaway.
Thank you. The city regulations currently now are a mess. They have hindered development throughout the entire city. Ms. Orr brings up one about a building. You talk about setbacks, you talk about footprints, you talk about all kinds of things, and people can't move forward, and they won't move forward because this city has made it almost impossible to do anything. And that's part of what's happened downtown, and you can go out into the outside the city proper, and you can still see abandoned buildings, and you ask why? Well, that's a city code. I can't do what I need to do to make it work. You have to tear down a building. That's not what they want to do. They want to utilize the building. The Unified Development Code is a tool. It becomes a hindrance. We need to make it flexible. We need to get staff to at least look at flexibility to make it work. And as far as more ordinances, we need less ordinances. Richard Johnson has done a great job trying to go through the book and get rid of ordinances that are outdated and so forth. We need less ordinances, less regulations. That's all we're living with is how to do regulations and how to abide by them. And it's ridiculous, and it's hindered this city all the way.
Thank you. Yes.
The issue of vacant and abandoned buildings goes much further beyond our downtown. It's across the city. I had a meeting out at the Itching Pot. People showed up. That place is disgusting. Day one, I'll create a Fight the Blight task force. It'll be comprised of developers, legal team to do every legal measure we can to take care of these problems.
Okay, thank you. If you want another couple of seconds to wrap up, go ahead and take that.
Yes. Let me say one thing. We had a building condemned downtown. It took minor things to take care of and got it uncondemned. And what's going to happen with it? Present administration says, well, I guess it'll stay that way for 4 years. That's not the way to do things with vacant and these buildings that are downtown that are vacant. We need to go to those owners and take care of it now.
Thank you.
I also think that we need to invest in public infrastructure so that the value of these properties become desirable to turn around. Right now, the values of the property are so low that you can't get a good tenant for a good tenant rate. So there's not the incentive for these private property owners to develop their property. So investing in public infrastructure will be a key to move forward.
Okay. Did you want to add anything, Mr. Coppinger? Okay,
What
excellent.
they said.
Okay. Very good. All right, moving on, and we'll start with Mr. Coppinger, this round of questioning. We all talk about priorities. I imagine every panel you've been on have talked about your priorities, but let's just pick one that's on everyone's lips, or nearly everyone's lips, is potholes. So where do potholes fall in the list of priorities for Cheyenne? Should the fifth penny take care of roads first before anything else? Because a portion of it does go to human service agencies, but should the fifth penny, where do you think the funds should come from for potholes, if indeed that is a priority, and should that be number one on the list for fifth penny?
As a safety committee chairman for the oil field, safety is first and foremost on my heart and my mind. And yes, a pothole creates a problem on your car, but the biggest problem is it creates as a safety hazard. If you break a steering gear, your car goes wherever it wants to go. It then becomes a safety hazard and a mobile missile that you no longer have control of. Potholes are very top on the list. Should fifth penny take care of it? Absolutely, absolutely. There are other priorities we need to look at as well, but potholes are number one, If it's a safety issue, it has to be at the top of the list. It has to be created and taken care of. That's my biggest concern, is safety issues.
All right, thank you.
I also agree, just from my military background and my healthcare background, that everything has to be safe before you can move forward in a community. And so, safety for potholes maybe ranks a little lower than me, for me than safety for police and safety that fire offers. But should the fifth penny be designated for roads? I do think the fifth penny should be designated for roads. I think that there's a lot of questions going on with the roads right now. Is it because we have not the right material, or the construction isn't being monitored enough, or what do we need to do to fix this challenge and problem that's been increasing in the last 8 years for sure? So I think we need to identify, bring in people and teams, identify what the real problem is. We need to come up with a strategic approach on how we're going to fix that problem. That needs to include cost. It needs to include a realistic timeline, and then we need to identify the funds for that problem as we move forward. But obviously, potholes need to be addressed and taken care of. They are the #1 topic of this campaign.
Thank you. Mr. Illaway.
Yes, potholes are necessary, but the fifth penny is invested in other agencies, which includes Health Department, Animal Shelter, Airport Board, Human Service Agencies, Economic Development Board, and various equipment. It also funds police, fire, parks. Street maintenance is approximately 80% of the fifth penny, and that's a good thing. Potholes are important. As Ms. Surdam said, I do not believe we're using the right materials. I've talked to several engineers. I'm still researching that. But some of the material that we used is not compatible with some of the other materials, so that needs to be looked at. But potholes is about 80%, at least I think that's what Richard said, that street maintenance is about 80% of the fifth penny when he was up here. So that's where it ought to be.
Thank you. Ms. Zor?
So last spring, I created a video on potholes, and it went viral. It had over 15,000 views, and I can't even tell you how many comments. And obviously, it's an issue, and I think it's a huge public safety issue. Our police and fire are running hot to the calls on those same streets that we're taking at 30 miles an hour. They're ripping down them at 40, 50 to save us. It's a huge issue, and it's not just potholes. Potholes are part of they're the problem to actually a bigger issue, which are our roads. Our roads are in dire need of repair. It's a fact. $4.3 million, Public Works has said, isn't enough. We need to take as much of that fifth penny, which is extremely critical to our roads, and do a better job of taking care of them. I went out and met with the folks at a Public Works that repair our potholes. And after the campaign of calling your pothole, their stack was unbelievable. They had 600 reports, a crew of 4 within the city, fixing our potholes around the community. How that gets done, obviously it doesn't. It's a matter of prioritizing, but I really believe the fifth penny is critical, and we really need to prioritize our roads. It's a big, big problem.
Thank you.
And the other 20% of the fifth penny was decided on via a resolution by City Council. I don't like that process. If we're going to spend 20% of our fifth penny, I think that also should be up to the voters on what they want to vote.
That 20% was actually on the overages, and that the fifth penny overages ended up being about $10 million, and that is money that the voters don't get a say in and where that fund goes. I believe a lot of it should go into savings. It's found money, but I believe the majority, it needs to go back to the roads.
And I think we'll have to correct that or look at that fact, because I believe 20% was also just for the funds in general, and then also 20% of the overage went to that. So we'll just have to look at that and verify.
Mr. Illaway, you want to?
Thank you. I would like to just say that taking, you two ladies pinching me in here. I would like to say that the fifth penny, when I took a look at kind of what the fifth penny is being spent on, we need to make sure that it is spent on what the voters voted on.
Yes.
And that's the important part. And most of that is for street maintenance. It also goes for public safety, which is fire and police and so forth. But the fifth penny is absolutely dire for this city. It is absolutely one of the most important pennies there is.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Coppinger, did you want to add a comment?
I
to
got
this?
nothing. I got nothing.
Come on.
Come on, I'm between these two ladies. You want to have something to do.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you. And just briefly, can anyone just explain the overage? What is the fifth penny? Just because people watching, this is going to be kind of Greek to them. What is a fifth penny overage? And does anyone want to?
I'll take that one.
25 words or less, or
Sure.
Yeah.
So the fifth penny overage, the city, the treasurer has to basically estimate with the state as far as when that penny comes in for the 4 years. And it's an estimate. And so over the 4 years, what happens is it has to go to the voter, and that takes time in a process. So funds are still coming in because the purchase that you made last month isn't on the rolls. And so what happens is there's an overage, and it happens for the sixth penny too. So there is roughly about a year's worth of collection, which is $10 million roughly. It was 10.4 the last time we had the election. So $10.4 million worth of overages that your city council then determines how that gets spent. Fortunately, they've done a good job of saying the majority of it goes to roads, but as mentioned earlier, some of it does go to health and human service organizations within our community. But that's how the overage works, and it's also the same situation with the sixth penny. When the sixth penny comes off, money still comes in, and then it's up to your city council and your mayor to determine how those funds are allocated.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. So we talked a little bit in the last group about the consent list, and it probably was a little bit wonky for a lot of people. But when the city council meets and they have their agenda and their items that are non-ordinances that seem to be already fully vetted in committee or in previous meetings, it goes on a consent list and is voted on without discussion, a full vetting, public discussion. And usually they are the items that are non-controversial. Some people are critical, and they say that the way of doing that, if people have not been able to attend the earlier meetings, they have no idea what's being voted on, they don't know the background. And I guess I'd like to hear what people think about the consent agenda, if too many items end up on this consent agenda, so that the people either attending or watching online have no clue what's going on. Is this a question of transparency? Is this a problem, or is actually the system working efficiently the way it was intended to? And we'll start with Ms. Serdam.
I think the consent agenda adds a lot of value in that we're able to move meetings along if there's no discussion on an item. Currently the council has the ability to pull an item off of the consent agenda. I think that would be very nice to open that up to the public as well. So if a member of the public wanted an item removed from the consent agenda so that they could know more, they had concerns, or they could talk about it, that they would have that opportunity. I would like to see that step implemented in the process.
Thank you. Mr. Illaway.
Thank you. I disagree with the consent list. I think there's too many items to start with on the agenda. It needs to be parceled out. You end up at exactly what people are saying. The consent list does not give the audience or the people that are watching any hint of what's going on. It's not transparent, and what we need to do now is to be a transparent city council, mayor form of government. And we're not doing that. And if we continue on with the consent list, we end up with people still don't know what's going on, and that's why what's happening. We're not listening to the people in Cheyenne. We're turning a deaf ear to them, and just, nothing's getting done. So I think it's wrong to have a city council go until midnight if they start at 6 o'clock. And therefore I'm saying pare down those agendas and move stuff along.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Zor.
I've been on boards before, and I am really opposed to consent agendas, especially to the extent that they're being used now. Good luck in trying to find what is on that consent agenda. If any of you've ever gone online to figure out what it is and any supporting document, it's difficult. I believe in open government. I believe in transparency. I believe that we should do a better job actually of live streaming and using every technology available to not only let the public involved with the regular meetings, but why not the regular the other open meetings, the general committee meetings. I believe that we unfortunately have probably taken advantage of the consent agenda, and I believe it needs to be opened back up.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Coppinger?
I have to agree with all of them. Please excuse me if I don't use the word transparency, because our federal government does that, and we know where that's gotten us. But I do believe in open book. I also agree with the media. I mean, we have to be able to open up so the public can see exactly what's going on, how it's going on, why it's going on, because it is you again, once again, that we're working for. You have the right to know everything we know. If you can't make it to the meeting for one reason or another, we have to provide you the means of being able to obtain that knowledge. We have electronic media. I am not, by any means, a social media guru. So I rely on public broadcast, the cable TV channel being able to provide me the information that I need. Fortunately, the city council, their agenda is in a place where I can find it and I can understand it. But we do need to make it so that it is open. We need to make all of the finance committee, the public works committee, all of them need to be out there so that you can see what it is we're talking about, why we want you to understand it, and how will this affect you. Again, open book. It has to be open.
Okay, thank you. And we're into the add-on comment. Do you have one, Mr. Down?
I do. I would agree that it is difficult to find information that you need on the city website. And so, perhaps with the consent agenda, there could be links to the actual ordinances or the things that are going through the consent agenda so people can be more informed. So if they want to pull those items off the list, they're able to do that.
Okay, thank you.
It's extremely effective and very inexpensive to bring government to people's homes these days. I attended the meeting on the parking study and live streamed it, and it's still available out there on YouTube. I mean, it's free and it's effective.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else want to add another bit to that? Thank you. Okay, and one thing, a question that came up with the last group, talking about sort of the hard priority of streets and alleys. What about things that are more amenity? Then we talked about historic preservation. Where does that fall in your list of priorities? And what would you propose the city do, if anything, to support historic preservation? And we'll start with Mr. Illoway.
Thank you. Actually, the Historic Preservation Board was meeting at 6 o'clock tonight next door. I would have liked to have gone and listened to them. We've torn down, in the time that I've been in Cheyenne, in the last 50 years, we have torn down some of the most beautiful buildings that were ever built in the city. And that's very unfortunate. Right now, Historic Preservation is taking a look at buildings. There are some historic buildings downtown. Even the old Fowler's building is a historic building. I'm not sure it's worth saving. That was one of Amy's buildings that she was looking at. But we still need to take a look at preserving historic buildings. This is a 150-year-old town, city, and we need to take a look at it. We need to work with the Historic Preservation Board. I think the mayor helps appoint some folks to that board. We need to take a look at their tax credits, there's private property rights, all things fall into the historic preservation area, and we need to work with those folks that want to save, and as long as it is not a hindrance or public safety, then I think we ought to try and preserve them.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Orr.
I believe that historic preservation is extremely critical to the capital city of Cheyenne, and I would really hope, Mr. Illoway, that the Cheyenne Regional Airport Board decides not to demo the current facility there when the new terminal is built, because I believe, whether you like it or not, it's a very unique structure that we have in the heart of our community. When it comes to historic preservation, again, it comes down to also taking a look at our UDC codes. I looked at buying a historic home in downtown Cheyenne to live in with a business. But because of the way it's zoned, if I wanted to purchase it, I had to go to the city council, hope that I would get a zone change after my rather large, in my opinion, investment. And that was a risk that I didn't want to take. So I walked away from purchasing that historic home because I couldn't live in it. That's wrong. And so if elected, again, this comes back to we really need to take a look at common sense approach to our buildings and to our community. And I believe historic preservation is extremely important.
Thank you. Mr. Coppinger.
You take the roots away from anything and it dies. Historic preservation is the roots of Cheyenne. We are the miracle city on the plains for a reason, because we have deep roots. That's all downtown. Outside of downtown, the business areas of Del Range, the west side of town, the north side of town will pretty much take care of themselves. Those buildings are new, and those tenants will take care of those buildings. The roots downtown are very, very, very important to this city. They have to be maintained. They have to be kept up. The Tivoli building, to lose the Tivoli building because somebody thought it should be torn down, would be a crying shame, would be a loss to our roots. We have to maintain our roots. How do you know where you're going if you don't know where you've been? You can go downtown, you can see the advertisings up on the walls that were painted how many years ago? The Coca-Cola signs, the steel buildings, the old Wyoming Motel on 15th Street. Those all have significance to this city. It's what made Cheyenne what it is today. You can't lose those roots. You have to preserve it.
Thank you. Mr. Dam.
I think psychologically, it's always very valuable to maintain and restore historic buildings when possible. It's very important to the downtown and to a community to preserve history. As part of our Abandoned Building Coalition, we do have a member of the Historic Preservation Board on that helping us, and our motto is one building at a time. And it is one building at a time, and working with that individual property owner on making that investment to restore the building as best you can. And so how you do that is you incentivize the individual property owner when you're able to. And we actually have several programs in our community already that can do that. The Downtown Development Authority has a facade improvement grant program and will grant up to 50% of the work, up to a certain value amount to help people. There are historic tax credits, and we're actively trying to help a large downtown building acquire historic tax credits right now. And then there are other programs that we can come up with and implement, such as, that pertain to TIF funding and also mill levy funds. And if people invest in their property, can they get some of that money back in their pocket? And so it's one building at a time. And it's definitely very vital to our community and our downtown that we save as many buildings as we can possibly save.
Thank you. Did anyone want to add? Well,
Yes, I can't resist as president of the Cheyenne Airport Board. It's not a historical building, it's an architectural building. I believe there's only 11 of those hyperbolic paraboloid buildings in the United States. Most of them all either fell down or whatever. But the Airport Board is discussing that. As a matter of fact, if Amy's building doesn't go in the hole, we would be most willing to look at a museum, child's aviation, whatever, out there. It's got plenty of parking, and that would be a way to save that building, and we wouldn't tear it down.
okay, all right. You want to add something?
It's historic in my book because it's older than I am, I think. So my great-grandparents actually had a dry goods store in downtown Cheyenne in the early 1900s where the Z's building is. I've got great old photos. Things just deteriorate. And again, this comes back to my Fight the Blight Task Force. We need to start identifying community-wide places that need our attention.
And I assume, Pete, when you say Amy's building, you're talking about the Children's Museum for the benefit of those. And, the half of the mission with the Children's Museum is downtown revitalization, so that's probably not a logical place.
And actually, that leads right into my next question, which is about downtown. And it's about downtown development to let's see how I put it here, to improve economic growth and business activity, to support existing businesses, draw more down there. And the question, I mean, this is kind of universal, oh, sure, but I guess if you could just address what is the role of the city, what is the role of public funds to perform that, and if you want to address the Children's Museum, where that falls into it. So address what you would do for the downtown, and what is the role specifically for the city and the mayor in that. And we will start with Ms. Orr.
Thank you. So I believe the role of public government and public funds is not to fund private nonprofit entities, and I've been very strong and vocal about that since day one. I do believe that it is the role of government to provide as much assistance in building and revitalization, less red tape. I support the core plan, and from what I'm being told out in the community, we're really at a tipping point in getting that core plan with downtown off and running if the right things happen. And I believe that it's a matter of taking a look at not just the Z's building, not just the Heinz building, not just the whole, the Los Abuelos building. We really have 4 key properties downtown, and that those efforts they do need our attention. I believe they're being worked on as we sit here tonight. And with that, in my opinion, too, it's not an either or. The West Edge is an exciting development, and I believe that there's a lot of potential there. And I fully believe that we need to look not just downtown, but off to the side as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Coppinger. Do you want me to repeat the question, or you got the parameters there?
I'm trying to think of how to word this. Unfortunately, I'm a roughneck, so sometimes I have to think first. I agree. I don't think it's the place for me to, or the government to fund these entities. But let me say on the other side of that, I'm just the mayor. I work for you. You're the ones that tell me, do you want to spend your tax dollars on a museum? So it goes on a ballot. You say, do you want the 6th? Do you want the 7th penny? It's not me making your decision. It's you making your decision. That's where the buck falls. It comes out of your pocket. You should tell me where you want that buck to go when it comes to something like a museum. When it comes to something like fixing Blythe downtown, the people have the say in that. I'm a huge supporter of a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. If you want that museum built, tell me you want it built. We'll find a way to get it funded. It's your money. Tell me how you want it spent.
Thank you. Mr. Dam?
I think the role of the government is to enhance and create public infrastructure so that private development is encouraged. I think that private development happens one project at a time, one building at a time, and each project requires a champion. And if you don't have that champion for each project, the project's not going to happen. I love the process outlined in the Wyoming state statute that allows citizens and private organizations to bring a project forward. If they have the buy-in from the public support, they're able through a petitioning process to put something on the ballot. And the citizens have the opportunity to vote for or against that and make that decision for themselves on if they want a project privately or publicly funded that's owned by a private organization. I think that is genius. I love that there's a way for citizens to make decisions despite what elected officials want to put in front of them.
Thank you. Mr. Illaway.
One of the things that I find interesting about running for mayor is that we need to find more ways to stimulate growth in downtown Cheyenne, and one of those ways is to bring more tourism downtown. When we redid the depot, which thank goodness we did and spent the money to do it because it's a great building, we ended up putting on a connector on the west end that would eventually take a sky bridge or whatever you want to call it over to the steam shops in the middle of the railroad yards. That's a great project to look at and go back to the Union Pacific and see if it can happen. They turned us down because we didn't have fences along the overpasses over the tracks. Now we have the fences. Let's go back and see whether there's anything we can do. that's how we can revitalize some things downtown. I just attended a meeting today in regards to the Heinz Building. This is one of the most exciting projects that we've seen in downtown Cheyenne in many, many years. The Heinz Building has sat for 30 years or more, abandoned, so to speak. They've had some things in the first floor, but this is an exciting project, and I really hope that we can move it forward and things do happen. They're working on tax credits. They're working on all kinds of ways to make it work, but there is somebody that will take over the the top 3 floors, and then offices on the 2nd floor and so forth. Exciting project. This is the way we revitalize Cheyenne.
I signed the ballot initiative as far as being able to take it to the people, and I agree with that process. The fact of the matter is that when it comes to those ballots, it is up to the governing bodies, as whether you like it or not, to determine what goes on that list. I know that currently they're taking a look at the 6th penny. The city's identified $100 million worth of needs, and they're paring it down to 45.
Does anyone want to add any more about the issue?
I just want to add to Pete that I do think that tourism and increasing tourism is vital, especially to downtown. And the way you do that is you improve public infrastructure so that people want to be downtown and they just go there to be there.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else? And we're just about at the end. One question that I kind of apologize to the first group, I failed to ask, and it was on the list. And you can just do a yes or no if you want. And we'll start with Mr. Coppinger. Would you support a non-discrimination ordinance?
No. My reasoning behind that is government overreach. I don't think I have the right to tell you, the business owner, who you can and who you can't do business with. That's your choice. It could be to your benefit. It could be to your demise. But it was your decision to open that business. It's your decision how you run that business, whether you run it up or you run it down. But it's your business. You have the right to decide that. The outcome of your decision is the consequence you pay, good or bad.
Thank you. Mr. Dam.
So I think we should strive for a community that's all accepting and where you don't have any discrimination at all amongst any people. That would be the goal. I would not support an anti-discrimination LGBT ordinance because I think that discussion needs to happen at the federal level. Is it a protected class or not? You know, the military as well as even the city of Cheyenne have in their HR policies to protect certain classes, and they do a great job protecting these folks. And I do think until it is a protected class at the federal level, it probably is overreach to step into a municipality.
Mr. Illoway.
Absolutely, letting the federal government do anything is a mess. But my goal is no discrimination, absolutely none. If somebody walks down the street, comes into my office and wants a job, I don't ask them what they are. They're man or woman, that's fine. Can they do the job is what I'm interested in. That's all I'm interested in. So but I don't also think that we need an ordinance. Laramie has an ordinance. I'm not sure that that's where we want to go. I'm not sure that Wyoming wants to go with ordinances or statutes on discrimination. I think you leave it up to the local body and you say there is no discrimination at all in city government, and period.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Orr?
I disagree with the patchwork process of letting it be up to each municipality for non-discrimination. I would fully support a non-discrimination ordinance that also takes care of protecting religious freedoms. I really believe that we need the state to take the lead, and I would work with other mayors and other like-minded individuals so that the state gives us direction so that we don't have varying laws between Laramie, between Jackson, between Cheyenne, between Gillette. I believe it's an important issue. I've worked on it in the past on the state level and actually got it really close. And it's an important issue. You talk to workforce services. It is an issue. If you think it's not, you're wrong. They get complaints. People get fired, people get discriminated against in the workplace, and we need a law. We really do.
Thank you. Did you want to, do you want
I
something
do.
to
I
add?
have one thing to
Okay.
say. We've had anti-discrimination laws for how long now? How many years have women been discriminated against? Equal pay for equal jobs. How many of you out there work the same as a man and get equal pay for it? We can make all the laws you want. Isn't going to change what's in a man's heart or what's in a person's heart. Laws don't change things. People change things. Education changes things. Laws are not going to stop discrimination. It hasn't started and it hasn't stopped it since we started creating the laws. Here we are 200 years later. Why would we change? What's going to make the difference?
Okay. Well, if that wraps up the question part of the evening, we have 1.5 minute closings. And again, when this is done, if any other candidates are here, we're all welcome to come up and have if you want to opine on what people in your group have said or other groups or something we haven't covered, you're free to do that. And we'll start this with Ms. Serdam, a minute and a half to close, and use it any way you want, minute and a half.
Okay. I'm really excited for this opportunity and to serve you, my community. We deserve a great mayor. Like, let's get this right. Let's get a great mayor in this office. I'm experienced. I have diverse experience. I have a huge passion for my community, and I find solutions. I think about a time in the military where I was deployed to the Dominican Republic, and I had to teach 1,600 Caribbean soldiers this abridged combat lifesaver class in 10 days. And I got there, and there were so many obstacles. We ran out of water. We ran out of supplies. Some of the people didn't speak English. And you know what you do? You find solutions. You find opportunities and obstacles. You bring your team together. You have a positive culture and a positive community, and you find the answers. And that's who I am fundamentally and what I do every single day. I want our community to thrive. I want a positive community. And I love our families. I want a community that wants to enhance and improve our families and everything that's here so that everyone can see how beautiful Cheyenne, Wyoming is.
Thank you. Mr. Illaway.
Thank you, Marguerite. And my thanks to the League of Women Voters who have held these forums for many statewide and local races over the years. You guys have been great. Forums are broadcast, and I think it's really a public service. I have lived in Cheyenne for over 50 years and am passionate about our city. I have been listening and observing and know that Cheyenne needs to make some changes if we want to see our city become the magic city on the plains once again. We must support our police and fire departments by providing resources they need to do their jobs and provide the protections we need. We must become citizen and business friendly. We can do this by streamlining regulations that support and not prohibit business growth. We must repair crumbling infrastructure in our streets. This can all be done by building consensus and talking to people and going out to the neighborhoods and finding out what the people want. We have stopped listening, and it's time we started. I'm the candidate that can do this with experienced leadership, and I ask for your support and vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Zor.
Since day one, I've taken the opportunity to listen and really listen. And it's been really energizing because for the first time, I think in a long time, people are feeling that their voices are being heard. And this election is very important to them. The public health, the safety, the welfare, the infrastructure, those are the core values that I hear time and time again. And I believe that those are priorities, and those are my priorities. And I'm going to take a minute. We did get a chance. Marguerite kind of alluded to it as far as the amount of time that Mayor Kasem put into the job. And one of the questions that we were given is this a full-time job? And I would have to agree with Mayor Kasem. Absolutely, it's full-time all the time. You don't get the luxury of going home if you're mayor and turning off your phone or turning off your computer. It doesn't happen. Emergencies happen, tornadoes happen, floods happen. Essentially, the mayor is the city's first responder. You know, when it comes, the mayor has to be there all the time. The mayor does not get the luxury of taking 2 weeks off and going to a vacation home. The mayor has to be there all the time. Our citizens deserve as much. I believe that the job is, it's full-time, it's overtime, and it's all the time. And if elected mayor, I'll treat it as such.
Thank you very much, Mr. Coppinger.
How do you follow all of that? I've been in Cheyenne. I came to Cheyenne in 1974 when my parents dropped me off here from Japan. Former military brat. I left to go see the world. Came back because I knew this is where I wanted to raise children. Mind you, I've helped my wife raise 5. Notice I said I helped my wife. I now have 5 grandchildren. Cheyenne has always been and will always be the magic city on the plains. It's always been that way. Do we have our faults? Absolutely. Can we fix those faults? Absolutely. How we're going to fix those faults is through teamwork, through communications, and through great leadership, not just average everyday leadership. Somebody that is willing to sit down and listen to everybody. Am I going to give you the answer you want to hear? Not always. But will I hear what you have to say? Always. Because that's what the job entails. It entails you to be 100% leader 100% of the time. 100% caring 100% of the time. Make people happy all the time? Not realistic. Isn't going to happen. I've never done it. Probably never will. I can't even say that I would strive for that. Because if I don't make you angry, then I obviously didn't listen to what you had to say and wasn't willing to give you the answer I felt strongly about, and I was just hugging on your coattails to make you happy. My name's Rick Coppinger. I'd honor your vote.
Okay, thank you very much. And can we give a hand to these 4 candidates? So the you can vote now. But you're pointing to something? Right, yes, I'm just going to say, just remind everybody that although 2 candidates advance to the general, you will vote for only one. It's kind of a little confusing, but you'll vote for as Mr. Elway reminded me, there will be a write-in candidate and 9, I'm sorry, doing the math. There are 10 candidates, and so if you haven't heard what you want to hear tonight, contact these folks. Check out our voter guide online. And so 2 people from the previous group have stuck around, and I'm not sure exactly. Oh, and Mr. Romsa kept his name tag. Excellent. Thinking ahead. Good,
Yeah,
good.
leadership right
There's-
here. I'll take that as an endorsement.
So you know, within the limits, I guess, does anyone want to say anything further than what you've heard? I don't know. I think a lot of people in the second group didn't hear the first group, but nevertheless, is there something that you wanted to comment on what you've heard? Something that did not get addressed that you would like to speak on? And, you know, I would say if you can possibly keep your comments to about a minute, we're not going to, get the hook, but just try to be terse here. We have about 20 minutes, so we can cover what you think needs to be covered, or any further comment. And I guess yes.
Well, I'd like to start in that, in again talking about how much time the mayor's role takes. Cheyenne is really fortunate to have this guy as a city councilman, in that I have never known somebody to attend as many events. And he's everywhere, and and he did it before he started campaigning for mayor. So if we had more city council people that spent as much time out in the community as Richard Johnson did, we'd be in much better shape.
Thank you. Is there any?
I guess the endorsements are flowing from the left.
I have something to say. I think the city of Cheyenne should be excited. I mean, when was the last time you had mayoral candidates that were this caring? Not just as caring, but look how intelligent they are. Look at the passion in their eyes. These people aren't just running for mayor because they want a paycheck. They're running for mayor because they want to run this city back to where it was. In 1867, when they built this city, they were excited. And look where we're at today. The city of Cheyenne should be excited. You have 11 people that truly really care about what they're doing and where they're going. But I also feel sorry for you because you do have 11 people that really care. Good luck picking the right one.
And you can only vote for one, so, does anyone want to address something that we didn't raise? Yes, Mr. Romsa.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, a lot of you weren't here for the first one, but as has been mentioned, we have a lot of diverse candidates. I think it's important not to just get pulled into the same people over and over again. So many times we have candidates come out and say they're one thing and then do the opposite. Today, on a national level, we had Bernie Sanders endorse Hillary Clinton, which is something I don't think anyone thought would happen when they heard Bernie Sanders speak. And I think it's important to ask yourself, do you want the same person? Whether it might not be Rick Kaysen, but are you electing someone just like him? Are you electing another full-time politician that makes their lives off spinning tales, spinning yarn? And not to get too mean or anything, but we all gave our addresses out, and I know my address has received mayoral come vote for me from two of the candidates on the stage, which I don't know. I don't want that as a person to run my city. Thank you.
All right. Were you done? Or was that if you wanted to take another couple of seconds.
I'm good.
Okay, all right. Any other topics that we don't think we covered, or you want to comment on what other candidates have said?
Marguerite, thank you. I'll only say one thing. I think Richard Johnson, a lot of people didn't hear Richard talk about airports and what's been going on with airlines and so forth. I just want to thank him publicly. I think he did a great job on explaining why you can't move the airport, why things are the way they are. And I will tell you, since it's a forum, that we continue to work as hard as any group of people on an airport board, trying to get a proper carrier and so forth. We continue to work on it. If you want to come in as a out-of-state resident and you want to come visit Cheyenne and you come and look at the present terminal, that's not a welcome to Cheyenne. That's why we're building a new terminal. The old one is 50 years plus old. It fell down 15 years after it was built. It needs to be used for something. I don't want to see it torn down. But Rick, thank you very much for what you said.
Right.
I have to agree with him on that. I was managing Great Lakes Airlines at the time that American came in, and we made a really terrible deal of that because we gave them $2 million worth of product. The airline wasn't here 2 weeks, and all that product went away, and they brought in old, beat-up equipment.
I'm sorry.
But we have to build a stronger airline.
Rick, I'm sorry. They were here 2 years.
Well, I know they were here for 2 years, but the product that we gave them disappeared in 2 weeks. I watched them load it up on the truck and drive it away.
They were here for 2 years. Unfortunately, they did go bankrupt, and that's one reason that they left. I do understand about the MRGs and so forth that we give out, but it was worth a try. They still would like to come back. We're still working on other airlines. So,
Are there still daily flights to Worland?
Worland is an essential air service market, and that will end shortly, September, I think. And so Worland will be one commercial airport that will not have service.
They didn't meet, annually they didn't meet their 10,000 employments for their essential air service, and so therefore, when the federal government looks at how many actual people fly on a flight compared to subsidies that's given out, Worland didn't make the cut, and so I believe that the last day of service is about September 15th.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to drive to Worland.
Thank you.
You'll have to drive to
Thank you,
Worland.
Richard, again.
Yes.
I forgot to plug. You can follow me on Facebook at Albert Ramza for mayor. You can always email me at my name plus a J in between one word at gmail.com, or my last name Ramza, the number 4 mayor on Snapchat. I update those regularly. If you have any questions, concerns, anything you want me to look at as a mayoral candidate, email me. Get in contact. I'm always here to listen and tell you, oh my God, you're right, thank you, or you're wrong, this is why. But input is always needed for all of us.
Thank you. So if that exhausts the comments further, you look like you're getting ready to say something, no, Richard? Okay.
I was just like, well, everybody, I mean, since I'm really the only elected one up here right now, I was like, just get prepared for the hardest customer service job you'll ever love.
Well, thank you very much. Again, thank you to the candidates for running. Thank you for showing up this evening and really giving your best to these questions. They all have, I believe, voter guides on our website, so you can find more about them. And if you have any further information, I'm sure they'd be happy to talk one-on-one. So one more time, can we thank them very much? Also, a shout out to Charter Communications for all the support they're giving throughout the week. Also, I failed to mention Wyoming Tribune Eagle is listed as a co-sponsor because of all the publicity and the support they're giving us too. So have a great evening. You're free to watch this again on TV and online, and be sure you vote.